Welcome back to another video, everybody. Today we're gonna be doing something a little bit different. So what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be building a end-to-end data pipeline using Microsoft Azure, and the focus will be on creating a music database. So the plan is to ingest artist data from Spotify's API and get their entire discography, so all their songs, all their albums. And then what we're gonna do is gonna ingest it into Azure, do some basic transformations, and then build out the database and load it into Azure SQL. Then after that, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna write a little Python script that will generate values representing streams and downloads for each song, because Spotify doesn't provide the API doesn't provide the streams or the downloads, so we're gonna have to generate those values, and then that's gonna be later utilized for reporting purposes if and when we load it into Tableau, etc., etc. So with that being said, I'm not gonna overtalk it, so let's go. So boom. So like I was saying, this is the architecture that I designed. So get the data from Spotify, ingest into Data Factory, load it into Azure Data Lake Gen 2, do the transform. So we're using ADF for the entire orchestration. So we're gonna do the transformations in ADF, but we're gonna be using Azure Data Flows and Databricks, and then we're loading it into Azure SQL, and then from there we publish it to Tableau or Power BI for reporting. So we're gonna be getting the weekly streams and downloads also from a file, and then also the use of followed artists. So that's the followed artist data from Spotify. So to do this project, there's a few things that you're gonna need. You're gonna need obviously Azure, an Azure account, and then you're gonna need this little library here called Spotify, and then you're gonna need a Spotify account as well. And then so you're gonna just go to the developer dashboard, create an app, call the app a name. So we're gonna call it music ETL blah, and then we don't have a website, and then you can get the redirect URL. So mine's gonna be localhost, and then understand, and then save, and then that's that, right? So after that, now we're gonna have to set up the environment. So I've already installed this. So if you don't have Spotify, you just do a pip install, you get Spotify, all right? And then we have to prepare our Microsoft our Azure environment. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do create a resource. So what we need is storage. We need one storage account. Well, actually, we're gonna do resource groups first, and we're gonna create the resource group, and then we're gonna call it, let's call it music ETL project RG, right? And then tags, review and create, and then we create it. And after that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna create storage accounts. So we're gonna have to create the storage accounts. So let's call this music ETL SA, lowercase numbers, music ETL SA. Boom. And then we're doing standard performance. I think this is, we can do the LRS. And then leave that. And then you can just skip through all of it. So yeah, we just forward through everything and then we just click create. And then we wait on it to deploy. Deployment is in progress. And then now we can just go to the resources, and then what we can do is we can just click it. But we don't have a dashboard. So create a new dashboard. Let's call it music ETL dash. All right. So create and pin. And what we gotta do now is we gotta create another storage account. So this one is gonna be, we're gonna call it music ETL, and then we're gonna call it DL for data lake. And then choose our subscription, the resource group that we created, storage account name music ETL DL, and then let's do LRS, and then advanced, and then we're making an Azure Data Lake Gen storage, so we gotta enable hierarchical namespace, which is this one right here, and then we can just skip through everything else and wait on it to validate. And we can click create. So once that's been created, we wait on it for it to create. And we go to the resource and see we have our other storage account here, which is our data lake storage. So what we can do is we can just add it to the dashboard too. So if we go to dashboards over here, there we go. So we have our two storage accounts in our dashboard. So now what we need to do is we need to create a data factory. So create a new data factory, choose our subscription, choose our resource group, and then we'll name it. So I'm gonna name it music ETL project ADF. Next, I'll configure Git later. Well, I won't be using it, but we can skip through all of this, have it validate, and then we'll create. Then and go to resource, and then we can also pin it to the dashboard. So what we need now is Azure SQL, which is gonna be our database, and then create the resource. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create it, blah blah blah. So add our resource group, and then we're gonna give it a name. So let's call it music ETL DB for database. We don't have a server, so let's call it music ETL SRV for server. We're gonna use SQL authentication because it's simpler. So we're just gonna call this admin. Then we're gonna just create a password. Password must be 8 characters length, must contain at least 3 of the following categories, blah, blah, blah. All right. So it's going to be, that's what we got. And then click OK. Don't save. We're just doing development. We don't need an elastic pool. Unable to retrieve pricing data for region at the moment. Okay. Network. I think the network is going to be so configure the database if it'll let us. I guess it won't let us. So then go to network. We're gonna create a public endpoint. And then we're gonna allow Azure services and resources to access the server, and everything else should be left at default. Let's see. There we go. All right, so it took a while to deploy, but it's finished now, so we can just go to the resource and then we can just pin that to the dashboard also. If we go into query editor, that's where we create the database. And then last but not least that we will need is our Databricks. So let's do Databricks, close. That's Azure Databricks. Scarlet, music, ETL, Databricks. That should work. Premium. Apache Spark secure with Microsoft Entra ID. I don't quite remember what it is that I did, so let me just go look it up real quick. Alright, so what we did the standard, and then we can just skip through everything else, I believe. Yes. And then and that one I think is gonna take a while to deploy also, so we'll just give it some time. All right, so now the deployment is complete, so we can just go to the resources and then pin that to the dashboard. So if we go back to the dashboard, we have all of the the resources that we need. Let's have our little dashboard going on right here. Oh yes, there we go. And we just click save. Yes. And then with that being said, our Azure infrastructure is pretty much set up. So now next step is to then actually begin the project, assuming you've already installed Spotify and then you have Python and all of that good stuff, and then you've already done, set up the developer Spotify account. Now that your environment is all set up, now we need to get the relevant dependencies. So if we look at the architecture, we need to get the data from Spotify. But the first thing that we really need is the user followed artist data. To get this is actually from Spotify, but I won't be connecting directly to the API, because to get the user followed artist data, you need to use Spotify's OAuth flow, and I don't know how to do that. So that's why we need the Spotify library that would then alleviate some of the difficulty to do that. And then so that's gonna be connecting to the API for us. And then that's how I'm going to get the use of the followed artists for each user, which would be a JSON file similar to this format, right? So with that being said, we're gonna work on getting this user followed artist data first. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to import Spotify, and then from Spotify .auth 2, we're gonna import Spotify OAuth. We don't need client credentials, so we're just gonna do that. And then all I need now is to import JSON. That's so we can write the file that we need. So we're gonna need our client ID, client secret, and our redirect URI. So we're gonna have to go to our dashboard, go to the app that we created, go to settings, and then we got the client ID. So client ID, we'll copy that. Copy that, and we're gonna store that in client_ID. And then we need the client secret, which, needless to say, should be confidential, these things. And then we're gonna store that in client_secret. And then we need the redirect URI, which I had already established down here. Boom. And then we need to dictate the scope. So the scope will be user follow read. User follow read. If you go back to the documentation, these are the scopes, and we need user follow read. That way we can read access the list of artists and other users that the user follows, right? So that's the scope. From there, we're gonna do not this one, this one right here. So we're gonna do boom, boom, so client ID is equal to client ID, comma, client secret is equal to client secret, comma, and then redirect URI is equal to redirect URI, comma. All right, and then scope. So if we print sp, boom, Spotify client object. Now the first time you run it, it's gonna redirect you to authorization page, and then you have to agree, and then after that, now you won't have to do it ever again unless you change the client ID and the redirect URI. So moving on, what we need to do, we need to get the list of followed artists. So to do that, we go back down here and we do user followed, and it will be this one right here. So boom, and then that's gonna be sp dot such, and then that's gonna be, we're gonna call that all underscore artists. So if we print all underscore artists, let's put an S at the end, we're gonna get this JSON. We got the JSON object, right? All artists. Now the limit is what the limit is. The limit returns a list of, well, it returns the amount of artists. So this will only return 20 artists. You could increase or decrease it. The after returns the ID of the last artist that was returned. So if we go back down to users followed artists, we have the ID right here, which is the artist ID, right? So then what you could do is, if you want to get the entirety of every artist that you follow, you just put it in a loop, and then you update the after to the last ID that was given, and then you just put it in, and then you just have it, the loop break once the length of this is less than the limit, and then you'll get to return everything. But I'm just using 20 artists for this project because I follow 120 artists, and once you go through the project, you're gonna realize that it's just gonna be a lot of information if we're getting all of the discography for 120 artists. So we're just gonna do 20 artists. So from there, what I'm going to do is I can comment this out, and then I can do a with open, and then I just do followed underscore artist underscore list dot JSON, and that creates our followed artist file that we need. And then we're gonna append a, and then set the encoding to UTF-8, and then read it as file. So with open followed artist list.json, append, and the encoding is UTF-8. So what I'm going to then do now is I'm gonna call this in here, right? And then all underscore, well, get the artist info is equal to all underscore artist. So then that would then give me everything, return to me these right here. And then from there I can then do JSON.dump, and then we just dump the artist info. And then ensure it's equal to false. And then file dot write new line. I don't really need the new line one right here, but you know, just in case you're gonna iterate through it. So if we do that and I run it, it should work, but it didn't work because of this right here. And then if we look in here, we have our file. But it looks to me I don't know why it looks like that at the end. Let's delete it. And then let's just run it again. I guess that's how it's gonna look. So then if you want to see the list of artists that I had or that I have, then we can just do we can do for artists in all underscore artists, and then we get artists, then we get the items, and then we get the artist name equal artist bracket name, and then I can do a let's do a count up here, and then let's count plus equal 1, and then let's just print let's print count, and then artist name. All artists oh no, it's in this right here. There we go. And it gives us the first 20 that it returned. And with that, our followed artist list file is done. So then moving on, the next step, if we go back over here, we can just move into the setting up the ingestion. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to my Data Factory, and then we're gonna launch Data Factory. So then what we need to do is we have to set up a link service. So what we need to do now is we need to create a link service that will connect to the storage accounts in ADF. So basically it links ADF, our data factory, to the storage account. So what we gotta do is we go down to manage, and then we go over to link service. We create the link service, and then we look for the type that we want. So we want a link service to blob. So we're gonna call it ls underscore a blob underscore music ETL SA, and then our authentication type will be account key from the Azure subscription, and then select our subscription, and then select storage account, and then we can test the connection, and then we'll create it right here. And then because we're also going to be connecting to Data Lake Gen 2, might as well make the link service too. So while we're here, so let's do another one, and then that one's gonna be Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2, continue, and then that's gonna be ls underscore ADLS Azure Data Lake Storage music ETL Data Lake. Yeah, that'll work. And then same thing, subscription, and then we're just doing our data lake storage this time. We can test the connection successful, and then we just click create. Boom. So now we have our two storage right there. So first things first. All right, so now that we have that, now we can actually set up the ingestion. So to do that, what we're going to need is go here in our container. We don't have anything in the container yet, so I'm going to create a new container called incoming artist data. And then we'll just create it right here, and this is where our artist file will go to. So I can drop it in there from now. Incoming artist, let's upload it. Let's do it old school. So drag it, put it here. There we go. And then upload, and then here's our file. So now with Data Factory, now what we have to do is I have to create a data set. So let's create a data set, and that's gonna be blob data set, and we're expecting it to be a JSON. So let's call it ds underscore ds for data set, and then let's call it artist, well, followed artist data. So followed artist data, and then the link service is our storage account one. And then, well, let's browse. That's where it's gonna pick it up from. we don't have to, let's set it to none for now. We don't have a file name. Well, we could. Let's just put the file name that we expect, and then let's just click OK, and then that's where it is, right? And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna, because we have to ingest it into Azure Data Lake storage Gen 2. So if we go over to our data lake storage account, we can then create the container that we expect it to go in. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna call it raw, and then create, and then within raw I'm going to add another directory, and then I'm going to call it followed artist data, and then we're gonna save that there. So that's within raw, because we're expecting a bunch of raw files. So then what I can do now to do the ingestion is I can then now create a new data set, which would be our Gen 2, which would be our sync, and then that's gonna be JSON as well. And then I'm just gonna call this one I'm gonna call it ds underscore followed artist raw, because it's in the raw. And then select the link service, which is our data lake link service, and then select the container, the raw, and then the followed artist, and then we'll save it right there. Can leave this to none, to be honest, and then save it. And then let's create our first pipeline, which would be to copy the data from the blob, copy this file to this one right here. So with that, we need a copy activity. So I'm just gonna select the source, which is gonna be the followed data, and then the sync will be the raw file. Let's name it copy followed artist data. Sync, boom, boom. So the source points to the file path, and then the sync points to, so everything is fine. Boom. And what I could do is I could then do a validation. So it can check to see if the file actually exists first. So check if file exists, and then the settings is check if this file exists, and then if it exists, then we copy the data, and then we delete it, then we delete it. We don't need to enable login, so, and then we call this delete from blob. Boom. And draw this down a little bit. Let's call it pl ingest followed artist data. And that's our first pipeline. All right. So just publish, boom. Boom. So if it works how it's supposed to work, right? It's gonna pick up the file from this container right here, the incoming artist data container in our storage account, and then it's gonna copy it over to our data lake storage account into this container right here. What the hell? Into this container right here, and then it would delete it from the storage account. So if I click debug, because the file is already in there right now, so we click debug and then we run it. Check if file exists, succeeded. And then copy succeeded. And then the delete should be, and then the delete is succeeded. So if we go over here, I refresh it, and then I go into here, you see that the file is there. And then if we go back to our storage account, our blob storage account, and then we refresh it, well, the file shouldn't be in there. So oh, my bad. I was looking at the actual folder, so this was the folder, not the file. It's gone. So with that being said, our first pipeline is completed. That's the first section of the pipeline at the very least, where we have to ingest this, is completed. Now we have to follow it and get the transform. The way how it's structured is we have to transform it, and then after we transform it, then we have to load it, and then we get the artist IDs, and then from the artist IDs we make the API calls to Spotify and ingest the rest of the data. And now that we've ingested our followed artist data, we're gonna need to do some transformation. So as per the diagram, we're gonna transform it we're gonna use Databricks for this one. So to do that, what we gotta do now is then launch our Databricks workspace. Then we're gonna sign in. And then the first thing that we're gonna need to do is we're gonna need to create a cluster. So we're gonna create the compute cluster, single user. We're just gonna stick to the defaults, to be honest. Single node defaults. Terminate after 120 minutes of inactivity. That way it doesn't run when we're not using it and then it costs us more money. And then we just create it. And that's gonna take a little while to create the cluster. So with our cluster now up and running, what we gotta do is we got to mount our data lake storage account and our blob storage account to Databricks. That way we can access the storage accounts from within Databricks. So I'm gonna go into workspace. I had already created a folder and a notebook called mount storage. So then what I need to do is we need to create a service principal. So we gotta go to Microsoft Entra ID, formerly Active Directory, and then we got to do app registration, and then create a new registration, and then we can just call it music ETL app, and then we can just keep everything for default. So once we've created the app, we need the application ID. So copy that and put this here for application ID. And then we're gonna need the object ID, I believe. Not sure about the directory tenant, but we can get it too. And then what we then need to do now is we need to go to ADLS and then IAM. No, not we've missed a step, so we have to go back to Entra ID. Well, not Entra ID, but or apps. Where are they? There we go. All applications, go back here. We need to generate a secret. So then we need a new client secret. So description, secret created, and then 6 months is the expiration date. That's fine. And then we need to just copy the value here, and then we come back over here, and then let's just call this secret for the time being. And then we then go to our dashboard. Then we go to music ETL data lake. Then we go to access IAM, and then we need to create a new role, and then we need that role to be called blob storage blob data contributor, I believe. Storage blob data contributor. So this is the one that we need. Select user group or service principal. That's what we need. And then so the members would be the app that I just created, which is music ETL app. Select, review and assign, review and assign. And that's how we do the role assignment. Then we can go back to here. So then what we need to do now is, so I have the script down here, but if you go to mount Databricks, it's gonna give us this right here, I believe. Yeah. So if we copy this, paste this here, Boom, boom, boom. Our application ID that we copied goes in here. And then our client secret that we copied goes I won't do it like this. Goes in there. And then our directory ID, which is this one right here, comes right here. Boom. And then if I want to mount the storage account, so I need to mount the container raw. So if I need to mount it, I need to change the container name from that to raw, and then we need the storage account name, which is music ETL. Put it right here. And then we're gonna just call the mount name raw. And with that, it should mount. So if I do, so if I mount it and then I do dbutils.fs.ls, which is, it lists the mounts. So let's check it first. So let's run this. True. So then if this ran correctly, if I list raw, it should show me what's in raw right now, which is, it showed me followed artist data, which has the file name followed artist data. So what I need to do now, I need to mount the blob storage. So to do that, so I'm gonna do this one right here, and then we're gonna go to our storage account. So that's our music ETL storage account. Copy this container name, which is here, and then paste it right here. Well, the account name, and then we need the container name, which would be this right here, incoming artist data. So that's gonna, and then the mount point will be /mnt/ the name, right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm gonna use a SAS token for this one. So I'm gonna get read, write, create, delete, list, why not? And then I'm gonna give it an expiration of a month. Then just HTTPS is fine. Generate the SAS, and then I can copy the SAS URL, and then I'll just paste it there. And that should mount our incoming artist data. And in the future, we're gonna have to mount a bunch of other containers, but for now, let's just work with this, and then enter, and it should list through. So if I copy this, paste it up here, it's supposed to show me, it's supposed to be empty though, and it's empty, right? So that's the mount storage. I'll provide this notebook in its entirety at the end of the project, so then that way you can just go in there and then just put the relevant information. So I won't do, for the rest of them, I won't do it on screen. So now that our storage accounts are mounted, we're gonna do is I'm gonna create a new notebook, and let's just call that transform followed artist data. So now that we need to do the transformation, what I'm going to do is we have to go back over to the ER diagram. So we got the followed artist, which is this right here. And then within the followed artist, we have the followers, we have the genres, we have the IDs for the artist ID, and we have the name of the artist, right? So those are the relevant information that we want to get. So that's the follower account, whatever genre they operate in, their ID, their ID. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get the artist data. We're gonna create an artist table, create a genre table, and then so create the artist table, the genre table, and the artist genre table, this associative table right here. So because an artist may appear in more than one genre, so it can be pop and hip hop, so it's many to many relationships, so that's why we need this interim table right here. So to do that, first thing we need to do is I need to import JSON, and then from PySpark.SQL import row, boom. And then after that, what I need to do is I need to initialize the Spark data frames that I'm going to be creating. So what I know I need, so following the ERD, I need one data frame for artists with the artist ID, the name, and the followers, and then one artist genre data frame with the ID, artist ID, genre ID, then genre, which has the genre ID and name, right? Underlined are the what's underlined is primary keys. What's bolded and italic is foreign keys. So let's get into it. So we're gonna do artist underscore schema, right, is equal to, and then type boom, 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 and then we need struct field, and then that's gonna be artist ID of type string, string type and then true, comma, and then I can just copy this, boom. So it's artist ID, name, and then comma, then followers. That's the follower account that we're gonna get, and then this one is gonna be an integer type true, right? So that's the first schema. Then I can just copy it, paste it down there, and then this one's gonna be the genre schema, and genre needs just a genre ID and a name. So name, boom. So we don't need this last one right here. Genre ID will be an integer type, and we're just gonna call this genre ID and then name. And then for artist genre schema, all right, we need the ID, the artist ID, and the genre ID. So ID is integer, right? Artist ID string type. So just copy it, put it down here, and then the genre ID is also integer. So copy this, paste it right there. So now our schemas are created. So now what I need to do now is I need to create the data frames. So that's df underscore artist, and then that's gonna be spark dot create TED data frame. And then we're gonna do an open bracket and then the square bracket, because we're not putting anything in there, and then we're just gonna set the schema is equal to artist, well, not artist genre schema, but artist schema, right? So we're gonna do the same two more times, and then this one is gonna be df.genre, and then the schema would be the genre schema right here. Naturally, this one is gonna be the artist genre schema, and then I'll just call this df underscore, right? So the next step is to we need to read our file that's in our that we copied over to our data lake storage. So we need to read, where is it? This file from raw, right? So if we did everything correctly, it's gonna be mnt slash, and then what did we call it? If we go back here to mount storage, because we mounted the data lake first, raw, right? So if it's raw, and then because it's gonna be in our Oh, it's okay. So it's in this container. So followed artist. Boom. Huh. And then the file path is followed artist. Well, the file name list.json. And then we do data is equal to spark dot read dot text file path. Hoping it worked. So let's say data.show. Struct type is not defined. Oh, maybe I didn't, there we go. Let's try it. Spark session object has no attribute called created data frame. Oh, created. Path not found doesn't exist. Ha 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 ha. Followed artist list, not JSON. Let's try it again. There we go. Let's see if we can see it. Data.show value string. All right, boom. So obviously we're getting the data, right? Right there. This little thing, the value, the items, the extracted stuff. So we can delete this. So then what I need to do now is I need to read the data. So let's go. Lines is equal to data dot rdd dot map lambda r dot value. I don't know why it's in caps. Collect. All right. So let's change this. Collect, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do for line in lines, and then so I'm gonna load the JSON. So that's all underscore artist equal JSON dot loads. And then we're gonna load each line, assuming you have, multiple lines in it. And then it's gonna be a for artist in all artists. Then we're gonna get the items. we're gonna get the items. So we're gonna get, where is it? Artists. For all artists, we're gonna get the items, right? So then after we got the items, what I need now are the artist names, each artist name. So that's gonna be artist name. Then I'm going to need the artist ID, which is artist bracket ID. Then I'm going to need the followers. So where's followers? We're gonna need followers, but I just need the total. So that's gonna be artist underscore followers is equal to, it's gonna, because we need to turn it into an integer, so artist followers, and then within followers I need the total. And then I'm gonna create a role, so I'm gonna call it artist underscore role is equal to role, and then within the role it's gonna be artist ID, which is equal to artist ID, and then that's gonna be comma, and then it's gonna be the name, which is equal to artist name, and then comma, and then the followers, which is equal to artist followers. Boom, right? And then what I'm going to do now is I need to append that row to my data frame that I created. So df artist is equal to df artist dot union, and then that's gonna be spark dot create data frame, and then that's gonna be the artist row, comma, and then the schema shall be the artist schema. So basically what I did is I'm going through each artist and I'm getting the name, the ID, and the followers, create a row of those three, and then we're just gonna create a data frame, store it in, and then union that data frame to the original data frame, and that's what it is. So now within that, after the appending, I need to get the artist genre. So I'm gonna do artist underscore genre equals artist underscore genre is equal to artist genres. So now we're getting this, right? Which is a list of genres. So after we get that list of genres, I'm going to do for genre underscore name in artist genre. I'm going to, I have to create a data frame called genre data. It's an empty data frame. I'll tell you why. So underscore data dot append genre name, right? And the reason why we're doing this is because, well, so we're getting every genre, and then we're gonna append it to this genre data frame, and then from there we're going to just create a unique list of the genres, and then that's gonna be our genre data frame, our genre table for the database. So that's why I'm doing it like that. What I'm gonna do is we can exit the for loop now. So we're gonna call distinct. Well, we're not gonna call distinct, but we're gonna create a distinct genre data table, or a data frame, not a data frame, list, yeah. And then we're just gonna pass data. So set is what's gonna give us that unique list of genres. And then for genre ID mapping, we're gonna get that's gonna be genre dot I plus 1 for I genre enumerate distinct genre. So basically, for each genre in our distinct list of genre, we're gonna enumerate. So then we're gonna have, so if it's 20 genres, we're gonna have 1 to 20, right? And then now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna create a row. So it's just counting the genres basically. And then so now we're gonna do the same row. So genres, well, genre rows is equal to, and then that's just gonna be row, and then that's gonna be genre ID is equal to genre ID underscore ID, comma, name is equal to genre. That's for each genre, comma, ID in genre ID underscore mapping dot items. Boom. And then we just close it, I believe. This isn't supposed to be here. So basically, for each row in the genre ID, for each genre ID in the mapping, we're gonna create a row, basically. So for each genre and genre ID in the mapping, we create the row. So df underscore genre is equal to df underscore genre dot union, and then that's our Spark create data frame, and then that's just gonna be our genre rows. And then our schema is gonna be our genre schema. All right. So with that, our genre data frame should be created. So then what I could do is I could do a I could do df underscore genre dot show, and then I could do a row count, which is df dot genre dot count, and then I could just then print this. Df underscore. Boom. So let's run this, see if it works. Looks to have worked. So then let's run this. So we have our genres. We have a list of 30 genres, but we only showed 20. Yeah. So now what we need to do now, the last thing that we need to do is do this table right here, the artist genre table. Do the artist genre table. So then to do that, what we're gonna do is I have to create an artist genre is equal to boom artist genre data. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to once again loop through the entirety of the followed artist file like we did up here, but when I do that, I'm going to loop for each artist genre. I'm going to look if the genre exists in our genre table already, which it will, and then if it does, then it's going to pull that genre ID and then associate that genre ID with that corresponded artist's ID, and then it's going to insert it into the table. The reason why I didn't do it within the loop here is because each time I'd have to collect, it would take longer if I had done it in this in terms of time, and I couldn't, if I kept updating it within the loop, it would take an eternity. So it was easier to do it this way. So I'll show you. So we're gonna we have our empty list, but first we need to get the maximum artist genre ID. So that's the maximum artist ID, that genre ID that's here, right? Because we need, this is unique and this is counting. So if currently nothing exists in there, so the maximum number is gonna be 0, right, or null. So it wouldn't. So and then once we continue to add stuff in there, then we want it to continuously count consecutively. So we're gonna do is we're just gonna collect it. It's this bit of code right here. So the max artist genre. So we're gonna call diff artist genre because the table already exists. And then we're gonna get the aggregate, and then we're gonna get the max ID, and then we're gonna collect it, right? And then if it returns a null value, then it's gonna be 0, right? So that's this max genre ID, artist genre. Did I create it? Well, artist genre is already created, is it? I'm just gonna copy this piece of code again. So for our line, get the name. We don't need the name, we just need the ID. We don't need the followers, but we do need the genres. So that's gonna be artist genre is equal to artist block genres, and then we're gonna do a for genre name in artist genre. For artist name and artist genre, we're gonna get the genre ID, which is equal to df underscore genre dot filter, and then filter the column by the name, check if it's equal to the genre name, and then we're gonna select the genre ID dot, and then we're just gonna collect it, and then at index 0 position 0. So basically we're checking to see if for each genre name we're going to filter that to see if the name exists in the data frame, basically, right? And then if it exists in the data frame, then we're gonna store it in genre ID, right? So then what we're gonna do is we're gonna do max artist genre ID plus equal 1, and then the artist genre ID is equal to the max, boom, and then artist underscore genre underscore data dot append, and then what I'm going to append to it is the artist genre ID, the artist ID, and genre ID. So let's see if we can follow it. So we have the max genre ID right here, max artist genre ID. So we get it. So whatever it is, or it's 0, right? In the case of running this code, the first time it will be 0. So then for each artist in our list, we're gonna get their artist ID, and then we're gonna get their genres, which is a list of genres. So then for each genre in the artist genre, we're going to create a genre ID for it. So we're going to see if the genre exists, which it won't. Well, it will sometimes. So for each genre artist ID, we're going to get we're gonna get a genre ID for it, right? My bad. The genre already exists because we already created the genres of here. So wherever the genre name matches, we're gonna get the corresponding genre ID. So for example, Miami hip hop would be 1, Queens hip hop would be 5, trap would be 7. So that's gonna be that's where we get the genre ID. And then the max artist ID, because a loop is being iterated, so we're gonna add it to 1, and then this max artist ID will be our new artist genre ID, and that's gonna be in our artist genre data. And then so we're just gonna keep appending rows, right? So I don't know why this is doing this though. df artist genre. Oh, that's why I messed it up. It was supposed to be artist genre, not artist genre schema. So let's just do that. Let's rerun that. Boom. And it's corrected now. So now that that's done, what I need to do now is I need to just union this to our schema, and then that's it. So that's gonna be df artist genre is equal to df artist genre dot union open bracket spark dot create data frame create data frame, and then within it it's gonna be our artist genre data, and then the schema will be artist genre schema, which is this right here. And then what we can do, we can just do df.show, and then we can do the same thing that we did up here. Row count, boom, boom, boom. df is not defined. Oh, that's why. Copy this. Boom. So this is how the data frames are. So the reason, so like I said, the reason why I did it like this is because when running the pipeline with a considerable amount of data, I could have written it in here, but then each write would be cost effective, so wouldn't be cost effective. So I did it like this instead. And then from here now, all I need to do is just write it to my CSV files. Write it to my because they're gonna be CSV, so I need to write it to my respective containers. So if we go here, we have raw, but I need another container called processed. Save that there, and then within process, let's create another one called processed genre data, processed artist data, and then processed artist genre data. Save. Needless to say, I need to now mount this process container here. So I can go back to my mount storage. Let's do this. So let's change this to markdown, and let's call this mount processed container. Let's call it mount process container. All I need to do now is just copy this one, because this is the blob storage, and not the blob storage, the data lake storage. And then I just need to change it from that to that, and then change it to, so then if I run it, it's supposed to say true. And then if I run this, it's supposed to be empty. Well, not empty, it has the containers that I just made. So going back to our transform, all I then now would have to do is to just write it to my CSVs. So that's df underscore genre slash mnt slash says succeeded. There we go. Anyways, the files are there. So I just need to do the same for so not genre, but artist, which would be artist here, and then artist genre, I believe. It's an override, so it should be fine. So if we go to the respective containers, we have let's refresh. This is the genres. Then if we go to artist genre, we have files also. And then if we go to artists, we also have files, right? And that's it for the transformation, all right? So everything is done. We could check if there's any duplicates. No duplicates. So we can shut down the cluster. So we can terminate it because we're done with it, right? And this is saved. So that's where the transformations are done, right? So what we do is create a new pipeline. If you want, or if you don't want to create, well, yeah, if you want, because depending on how you're testing it. So we go to Databricks, notebook, and then we don't have a link service, so we need to create a link service. So let's call this link service music ETL DB for Databricks, or DBRKS for Databricks. And then our subscription will be that, and our workspace will be that, and it's just gonna do a new job cluster. So each time we test this, it'll use a new job cluster and not the one that we already created, because we can just terminate the one that we already created and don't have to worry about it anymore. And this is just on demand. And then access token, oh, we need an access token, don't we? So to get the access token, we go to user settings, and it's somewhere around here. There we go. So up here, then developer, manage, generate a new token. Let's give it a name, music ETL. And then lifetime 90 days. And just copy it and then just paste it in here. And then cluster version. Oh, it didn't give us a default. I think the default, what was the, let's see, that's done. 13.3 LTS Scala. So let's do that. Let's do that. Cluster node type. General purpose. That's just the general purpose Python version 3. Boom, boom, boom. Let's do fixed one. We can test the connection, create, and that's the link service to Databricks. So just like how we created a link service for our storage account, we have a link storage for Databricks. So I can call this transform artist data. Let's transform followed artist data, and then the notebook path will be music project this, and then save that. It doesn't take any parameters, we don't need any, and we can validate, and we can close, and we can publish. Well, let's give it a name. So PL process artist data. Boom. And then publish. And then what I can do, I can create a new folder. I can call one ingest, and then I can call one processed, and then this is my ingest, and this is my processed. Boom. And then what I could do is I can do execute, then within the execute create a new pipeline, and that's gonna run the two pipelines that we have already. So that's gonna be execute ingest followed artist pipeline. So select the pipeline that we want it to execute, which is the ingest, wait on completion, and then this one is going to be execute processed followed artist pipeline, and then boom. And we can validate. It's fine. Let's call it PL followed artist data. And then the reason why we did it like this, because I could have just put the data flow, just connect it to the end of this, but the reason why I broke it up like this is because it's easier when you're testing, so that way you don't have to run the entire pipeline from start to finish. You can just start it from right here. So we just publish it. Boom. So now that we're done with ingesting and transforming the user followed artist data, we have to then load it into SQL, which isn't really hard. And then from there we're gonna then get the artist IDs that we just had, and then use those artist IDs to get the album IDs, or well, the albums from Spotify. So in order to get the albums, you need the artist ID. So for each artist ID, get all the albums. So that being said, that's that part of it right there. So so now that we've done the transformation and we've had the ingestion part of the pipeline and then the transformation part of the pipeline, we need to work on the loading into SQL part. So to do that, what I first need to do is create my various data sets. So let's go. I'm gonna create a new folder here. I'm gonna call this one processed, and that's gonna represent the data sets that we would have written at the end of our transformation process. So if we go back to here, they're gonna be representing these right here that are in our processed folder. So processed, I need to create 3 data sets. So that's gonna be Azure Data Lake Storage, and then they're now delimited text or CSVs. So then I'm gonna call this one ds_processed. Let's call it artist data, and then the link service, first row is a header, and then location is processed artist data. Boom. And then first row is a header, import from connection store, that's fine. Select OK. So then if I were to preview the data, you'd see the preview of the data. But let's clear the schema and then preview the data again. It's supposed to give us the preview there we go. So this is the schema right here. So prop 0 would be the artist ID, prop 1 would be the artist, and then prop 2 would be the follower count. So then I do the same for the other 2. So that's ds_, let's call this artist genre data, processed genre data, boom boom boom, then there we go. Then we're gonna do it for the last one, which would be the genre data. So ds_genre data is what I'm gonna name it. Boom. There we go. And then previewed. This is how it looks, right? These are all our data sets. So now what we need to do, because we're going to be loading them into Azure SQL, we need to create data sets for those too. But the tables aren't created yet, so we have to go ahead and go create the actual database. So following the ER diagram, I need to create all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 all 8 tables. I already have the schema, the create script written. So we just go back over to our database, click query editor, and then log in with the credentials that we had created. Boom. And then I have this create script over here. This will also be in the description, so you don't have to write it down. You just copy it in and you should be fine. So then when we run it and then we refresh it, all our tables now exist, right? So now going back to Data Factory, we need to create the other set of our database. So I'm going to create another folder and I'm going to call that SQL. And then within the SQL folder, we're going to do our databases. So we can just go to, we can do our data sets. We can just we can just keep it all and just enter SQL. And then we want the Azure SQL. Continue. And then this data set, we can call it ds_SQL artist data. Then we don't have a link service to our Azure SQL, so we have to create one, which is let's call it ls link service music ETL SQL R SQL music ETL. So choose our subscription, choose our server name, which is this one, then the database name, which is this one. Authentication is our SQL authentication, so what we had originally. Test our connection successful, and then we create it. So then from there we check the table. So because I'm doing the artist data, that's gonna be this table. We can import the schema from the connection store, and then we'll click OK. And then we're gonna do that again. So create another data set, SQL. Continue. This one's gonna be ds_SQL artist genre _data. Choose our link service. So this is for the artist genre table. Okay, again. And then the last one is gonna be our genre. Save that. So ds_SQL genre data. So choose our link service, and then our table name, and then OK. So now that that's finished, I can publish. And then basically what I want to do is I want to copy my data that's technically, it's transformed already. So technically after transformation, it goes back into Azure Data Lake and then goes into Azure SQL database. So my architecture diagram isn't very much accurate. But anyways, so essentially it's a copy, like how we copied from the blob to the data lake. So I can close all of these, and then this is my ingest, my process. So let's create another folder, and then let's call that SQL, and then let's just create a new pipeline within that, and then that's gonna be a copy activity. And then I'll copy artist data to SQL. Then we already created our data sets, so that's gonna be processed artist, and then our sync is going to be this right here. Let's import the schemas so I can map artist name followers. They match up properly, I believe. So I can go ahead and debug it. File path for dataset processed artist is a folder. Okay, so it's a folder. So what I need to do is, because the folder contains let's see, which one is it? Nope. There we go, containers. So because our processed folder consists of numerous files because of the way it was partitioned, we want to grab everything. So we're using the wildcard file path, and that's just going to be star.csv, and that will pick up all of the CSVs in the folder. You can click the preview, and then this is what the preview looks like. So then if we debug now, it should work. It's running, and it succeeded. So if we go back over to our database, and we just click the artist table, select the top 1000, we can see that we have records in our SQL database now. So that's one down. So we'll call this PL SQLize artist data. And then that's done. I'm gonna go back to my database because my data sets, because I realized that my naming convention isn't how it was supposed to be. That way it's just easier to like go in there and know which ones that I want. All right, boom. So we have one pipeline done. So then it's time to create a new one. So new pipeline, it's the same principle. I'm just doing the same thing over again. So copy data. So I'm gonna copy the artist data. No, copy the genre data. And the reason why we do artist then genre is because of the foreign key constraint, so we can't do artist genre before it. So the sync is going to be our processed genre, and then wildcard.csv, and we can preview the data again. We have our genres, and then we'll get our sync, which will be our genre sync right here. Be an insert, do the mapping, genre ID, name. Yeah, genre ID and then name. And then if I debug, succeeded. So if you go back over to the genre table, and then we select, that table is also populated. So then I'll give this one the name PL underscore sequelize genre data, and then I could just clone this, to be honest, and then call this one artist genre data. And then change the name to copy artist genre. And this is how we make the relation. So in this data set will be process artist genre data set, wildcard CSV. We can preview it once again. There we go. So we have ID, artist ID, and genre ID. And let's just double check that the format is right. Yes. So then if I now copy it over to our artist genre, the mapping, let's import the mapping. There we go. And then I debug. Boom. So that succeeded also. So then if I just click select top rows, we have all our data. So that's done. I can publish again. Boom. And then what I could do, or what I would do then, is to execute the pipeline. Actually, yes. So I'm gonna need 3 of these, right? 1, 2, then 3, 4, then realign it here. So execute the sequelize artist pipeline, and this one could be execute genre pipeline. Well, SQL pipeline. And then this one would be execute SQL artist genre pipeline. Then for this one, the pipeline that we're invoking is the artist pipeline. So that's this. Wait on completion. And then this one is the genre pipeline, sequelize genre. Wait on completion also. And then these two have to run before we can insert the artist genre. So then we do the artist genre right there. Let me just there we go. And then you can validate the pipeline. It's all good. And we publish. So then this would be the entirety of the user followed data pipeline. And then after that's ran, then we just get the artist IDs from the SQL database that's here, and then that's how we would then make the API calls to get the albums for each artist and do the rest. but I guess I could run the entire pipeline from start to finish. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do drop from DBO genre. Is it? Drop from table. I don't want to delete the table, I just want to empty it. Okay, so it's a delete from. So if I go back here, I'm going to do delete from table, genre, run it. Delete conflicted with references, blah, blah, genre. Okay, so I need to do DBO artist genre first, run, and then I can do DBO genre, run, and then I can do DBO artist, and then run, all empty. So now if I run the select, nothing's gonna be in there. Select, nothing's gonna be in there. And then what I could do now is I'm gonna add a trigger. So I'm going to create a trigger, and then let's say trigger equals let's say the name is tr underscore followed artist arrived, and then it's gonna be a storage trigger on the subscription, on the storage account name, and then the container name would be this right here, containers. This would be the container name. Oh. This would be the blog path, and then event is if the blob is created, right? So this would execute whenever the file arrives. So I'll continue, and you need to make sure you publish the trigger first before it can actually run. Fail to get subscription status on storage events for trigger, fail to activate trigger. What's it saying? So we go back to triggers. Status stopped. Okay. Select start trigger when you publish. Azure Event Grid resource provider to your subscription before creating an event trigger. So it says register Azure Event Grid resource provider to your subscription before creating an event trigger. So I have to go back over here, go down to let's just do it this way. Event grid. Let's do all resources, or let's just do subscriptions actually. Click on your subscription, then go down to resource providers, and then event grid. Click event grid, register event grid. And there we have it, it's registered. So if you go back here and we click continue, it should run this time. And it started. So I can publish it. Alright, so it's published. So then what I can do, I can go back to my storage accounts. I can empty these. So I could just delete all. All right, so now that we've emptied all of the folders, make sure there's nothing in raw. There's something in raw here, so I'll delete that also. And then I'll go over to my blob storage. There shouldn't be anything in blob storage because it automatically deletes from blob. So there's nothing in blob right now. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to drop the followed artist file in this, and then the event trigger will should in theory trigger this pipeline. So let's do that. Upload, and then upload there. Boom. So we just dropped it at 1:15:21. If we go down to monitor, we'll see that the pipeline was triggered at 1:15:51. So this is the main, well, this is the trigger run, and this is the main pipeline run. So that's the followed artist data pipeline. So as you can see, it's kicking off the ingestion, and then after it ingests, which normally doesn't take long, it kicks off the transformation. The transformation will take a while because it has to start up a Databricks cluster, and starting up normally takes like 5 minutes or so. So it's this part of it will take a while, and then it will run through the rest. But with the magic of video editing, for you it's gonna take like a second. All right, so as you can see, the process pipeline, it took 6 minutes and 10 seconds to run, but in reality a bunch of it was just to start up the cluster, to be honest. So it took like 5 minutes to start up the cluster. And then if we go back to the pipeline, there's a problem with the last part of it, which, let's see, operation copy artist field, sync side error. Database operation field. PKR cannot insert duplicate key into DBO artist. I don't know why. Let's go back here. Oh, I know why it's failed. We clicked the wrong pipeline. So this is the artist data, which is also right here. this should have been artist genre data. So if we publish it, boom, now I'm gonna have to delete all of the other files that I had. So I'm gonna run it again. So let me just go back to our storage account, and then this, and then upload, and then drop the file in there, upload, and then we can refresh, and as you can see queued and it started again, so it should run this time. And just like that, the pipeline, all of the pipelines have succeeded. So if we go back to we can select the top 1,000. We got the artists, the artist genres, and then the genre. So that's it for this portion of the pipeline, the main pipeline, as it were. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. If you like the video, thanks for sticking around. If you stuck around, if you're following through, the other videos will come in the future when we finish it up. So just like, subscribe, and share, and put on the notification bell so you can know when the other videos drop, so we can finish this project. It's been real. Catch y'all in the next one. Peace.